Alrighty, party peoples of the interwebs, it's your daily dose of the Trump trial update. I don't know what day we're up to. It's 17, 18, 19. We are continuing with the cross-examination of Michael Cohen, Trump's former personal attorney. It's an abject disaster. It is such an abject disaster coming on the heels of the abject disaster that was Stormy Daniels' testimony. Watch what's going to happen. I'm calling it now in real time, people. They are going to shift the narrative from the star witnesses, Stormy Daniels and Michael Cohen, who are there to prove that Trump made this unlawful concealment of a payment. It's going to shift from that to we never needed Stormy Daniels or Michael Cohen's testimony in the first place. It was superfluous. The fact that it was an abject disaster is irrelevant because we never needed them in the first place. We know Trump made the payment, therefore he's guilty, yada, yada, yada. We never needed them, therefore ignore the abject disasters that is their testimonies. But my goodness, it's a disaster. Michael Cohen is a pathological liar who cannot keep track of his lies, not from 1 year to the next, not from 1 decade to the next, but from 1 day to the next. He literally contradicted his own testimony from Tuesday today. We will get into the highlights. I took some notes as to the themes, which we're going to go over, and then I'll read a few of the choice tweets coming from Matthew Russell Lee, Inner City Press, who's live tweeting this. I believe the kids these days call it an X script. I'm going to go over some of the highlights, but my goodness, I'm predicting it now. They are going to now shift the narrative to say Michael Cohen's testimony was never needed in the first place. So the first theme of the day is Trump's attorney Blanche is now forcing Michael Cohen to face the fact that once upon a time, he had nothing but insults and choice words for the prosecution, calling them the most corrupt prosecution of all time, saying he was being unfairly targeted, which I have no doubt that he was, because he was always nothing but a tool to go after Donald Trump. And when they went after him hard, they went after him hard to get to Donald Trump. They managed to flip him by basically saying your life is going to be over if you don't cooperate with the prosecution. And now he's got nothing but good things to say about the prosecution and bad things to say about Trump. Cohen goes on to testify again that he wanted a position within the White House. He aspired for that attorney general position. He was devastated when he didn't get that position. His daughter was devastated when he didn't get that position. And one thing that is yet again abundantly clear, if it wasn't abundantly clear from Tuesday's testimony, is that Michael Cohen has a personal vendetta against Donald Trump. He is a jilted ex-girlfriend, and he's got nothing but scorn for his lover, Donald Trump. We'll get there when I go over some of the highlights. Another portion of the highlights from today is that Michael Cohen is now admitting not only did he record once with Donald Trump, that private solicitor-client conversation he had with Donald Trump, he recorded multiple calls with multiple people, including journalists. He recorded all the time, and I predicted it at the time because recording your conversation with your own client is not something a corrupt and dirty attorney does only once. So he has a habit of recording conversations with people. Why? I propose to you. It is to extort them later on, but he admits to it, and he admits not only to recording conversations with other journalists, with other people, but to deleting text messages and asking those with whom he texted to delete those messages on their end, that being David Pecker in particular. Oh yeah, and that conversation, that text message exchange that he said he had with Keith Schiller to talk about the Stormy Daniels story that the prosecution led him to agree with. Oh yeah, that's when I called Keith Schiller to talk about the Stormy Daniels story. Well, that in cross-examination has now been revealed to have been a 1 minute and 36-second conversation with Schiller that related to prank calls he was getting from 14-year-old kids. It had nothing to do with Stormy Daniels, or at least he now had to admit possibly it had nothing to do with Stormy Daniels because the call was too short and dealt with prank calls that he was getting from 14-year-old kids. The Jerky Boys. Who remembers the Jerky Boys? And for those of you who are not 40 plus years old and who don't know who the Jerky Boys were, back in the day when we had actual cassettes, there were these people called the Jerky Boys, and they would record prank calls that they made. I listened to one the other day, actually, and oddly enough, they were not funny at all. They were actually very mean-spirited, and I don't remember why I thought they were funny at 14 years old. But when you're 14 years old, you're an idiot, your brain is not developed, and that which you realize is actually not funny at all is actually quite funny at the time because you have an undeveloped brain. All right, and with that parentheses closed, let's get to some highlights on the day. Inner City Press, at Inner City Press, Cohen saying he wants to see Trump in jail. Trump's lawyer Blanche, you said your work played a large role in the indictment of President Trump, right? Cohen, correct. Blanche, you responded to this truth by President Trump. Cohen, I'm not on Truth Social. So once upon a time, when you had Michael Cohen referring to the prosecution as the most corrupt people on earth, he was being treated so unfairly. He is now seemingly not only working with them to ensure that Trump gets indicted, but he's taking credit for for Trump getting indicted because now he's shifted his animus towards Donald Trump. Michael Cohen admits in his Mea Culpa podcast, Mea Culpa MC Michael Cohen, we now know that that's the connection. He's taking credit for Trump getting indicted because of the level of his collaboration with the prosecution. And he goes on later this day to admit that he's got a personal interest in Trump getting convicted in this case. At Inner City Press, Trump's lawyer Blanche, on April 21, 2024, you said you were mentally excited about this trial beginning. Cohen, yes. Blanche, you knew a DANY, that's the District Attorney of New York, paralegal, was monitoring your social media and still tweeted this? Cohen, I did. He's mentally excited about Trump going to trial. I mean, I just have some visuals in my mind that I don't want to have in my mind, but what a thing to say. This is the guy that the prosecution expects now the jury should believe that Trump is guilty of what he now says is the truth now when he said it wasn't the truth some years ago. At Inner City Press, Trump's lawyer Blanche, does the outcome of this trial affect you personally? Cohen, yes. Blanche, the medallions, in whose name? Cohen, some in my wife's name, also 16 corporations, just FYI. The A through Fs are for individuals. Blanche, thanks. Cohen, you're welcome. It's a small parenthesis, but Michael Cohen with his partner, apparently they own some medallions in taxi cab services in New York, but I think Michael Cohen can no longer own his medallions because when you're a convicted felon, you can't own medallions. But Blanche is asking him outright, do you have a personal interest in the outcome of this case? And Cohen says, yes, I suspect because the prosecution has gone after not only Michael Cohen, but his wife as well. And if he cooperates in this case, well, he stands to benefit personally. So if he sees Trump get convicted, well, my goodness, that's good news for him. It would be such good news to Michael Cohen to see Trump get convicted that, oh my goodness, he might just have the slightest incentive to lie and to change the story that he said years ago to now make it look like Donald Trump is the one guilty of what Michael Cohen is probably guilty of. At Inner City Press, Trump's lawyer Blanche, did you tell Kedar Messenberg you wanted a job in the White House? Cohen, maybe. Blanche, did you, and I presume, tell Keith Davidson you wanted to be and might be Attorney General? Cohen, yes. And thus another Michael Cohen meme was born. Maybe, ... yes. Did you tell that person you wanted a job in the White House? Maybe. Did you tell Keith Davidson you were going to be the Attorney General? Yes. At Inner City Press, Trump's lawyer Blanche, you told your daughter you wanted to be special counsel to the president, but Mr. Previous didn't like the title. Cohen, personal attorney. Blanche, was your daughter mad that Gary Cohen got a White House role and you didn't? Cohen, she was. Michael Cohen has a personal interest in seeing Trump get convicted, and it now seems that even Michael Cohen's daughter is pissed at Donald Trump because her daddy, Michael Cohen, didn't get the Attorney General position, as if in any realm of the universe that would have been an appropriate pick because of his competency and ethics. At Inner City Press, Trump's lawyer Blanche, you know it's unethical for a lawyer to record his client, right? Cohen, there is a crime fraud exception. Blanche, to record Mr. Trump for Mr. Pecker to hear? Cohen, I was just giving an example. This is the most glorious example of not being able to keep track of your own lies, because when Michael Cohen was asked why on earth he was recording a conversation with his own client, unbeknownst to his own client, he said not because of the crime fraud exception, as if that would ever apply when the crime fraud is being committed by the lawyer and not the client. He didn't say that. He said, I was recording the conversation to show it to David Pecker, to prove to him that he was going to get reimbursed his monies, to reassure him he was going to get paid. It had nothing to do with any crime fraud exception, as if that could even apply when by all accounts it looks like the crime fraud was being committed by Michael Cohen and Trump was the victim of it. And right on cue, the useful idiots of the interwebs, George Conway came out with a wonderfully insightful tweet that really illustrates what a flagrant moron he is. George Conway at GT Conway 3D. Well, he put the con back in Conway. Bada bing, bada boom. Now we are talking about Cohen taping journalists, how many people he taped, and about Cohen's relationship with Maggie Haberman. What the purpose of this meandering, plotting line of examination, or is it multiple lines jumbled together? I have no earthly idea. So after the cross-examination gets Michael Cohen to admit that, yeah, he wasn't recording his own client for crime fraud exceptions because it was no crime fraud exception unless he was committing the crime fraud. He was doing it for other reasons. After they get him to admit that, they then get him to admit that he actually recorded multiple conversations with many people, and the genius George Conway doesn't understand the relevance of this line of questioning. To that tweet, I had to respond as follows. The fact that you have, quote, no earthly idea, end quote, is a testament to your stupidity, not to the pointlessness of the questions. For those who are unsure, it is to show that Michael Cohen is an extortionist scumbag who secretly records conversations for the purposes of exploiting the recordings later. And he's a liar who recorded a conversation with his own client, then fallaciously invoked the, quote, crime fraud exception, having forgotten his initial lie about why he recorded that call. Hope that makes it clear, Conway. Those are the highlights of the day. It's an abject disaster. There are no ifs or buts about it. Michael Cohen is coming out of this looking exactly like the felon, convicted perjurer, liar, scumbag, dishonest, unethical lawyer that he is. And the only people who would say otherwise are idiots, morons, propagandists, or CNN. From CNN Politics. During, at times, heated questioning, the defense tried to undermine Cohen's credibility, calling into question the purpose of a key October 2016 call that Trump's former fixer testified was about the Stormy Daniels hush money payment and pressing Cohen about the times he lied under oath. Trump paid unusually close attention to Cohen's testimony today as he listened in court. Over the course of his multi-day testimony this week, Cohen detailed the alleged hush money scheme involving the adult film actress before the 2016 election, walked the jury through the $130,000 he paid at Trump's direction and its aftermath. Cohen's testimony tied together the prosecution's allegation that Trump broke the law by falsifying business records to reimburse Cohen and conceal the payment. Trump has pleaded not guilty and denies having an affair with Daniels. At Trump's direction. Not allegedly at Trump's direction. Not at Trump's direction, but Trump denies the accusation. No, it's at Trump's direction. It's a foregone conclusion, the criminality of the charges against Trump, so that if he doesn't get convicted, the CNN viewers, the idiot CNN readers are going to say, how did this happen? It was at his direction. They said it right there, black on white. What CNN is doing right there, it's not journalism, it's not analysis, it's beyond spin. It is outright disinformation and outright lying to their viewers who are low information viewers who are going to believe that and not understand any potential acquittal in this trial. Although I still do not think Trump is going to get acquitted. I think he's going to get convicted. But the bottom line, even if he gets acquitted, they won't understand it and they're still going to think he's guilty. And I had to reply to them with my tweet of genius. At the Viva Frei, it's not, quote, one screen, two films, end quote. It's, quote, one screen, two viewers, and one of them is a liar, end quote. That's you, CNN. It's an abject disaster, and anybody following this trial closely is going to understand that. You could even be following Adam Klasfeld, and you'll understand what an abject disaster Michael Cohen's testimony was. At one point, even according to Adam Klasfeld, who's also live tweeting this, Michael Cohen admitted at Klasfeld Reports, after Blanche asks whether Cohen ever expressed the view that Keith Davidson was extorting Trump, the prosecutors object, judge overruled, Cohen agrees he once opined, quote, that they were extorting Mr. Trump, end quote. That is the daily update of the Trump trial. Michael Cohen is still under oath. The cross-examination continues on Monday, as at the time of shooting this vlog, because Trump has been given the day off of the trial to go to his kid's graduation. So there will be no trial tomorrow, Friday. And the defense anticipates ending the cross-examination on Monday. So we'll see where this goes. That is where things stand as of today. And I'm calling it now, and pay attention because it's going to happen very, very quickly. The narrative is going to shift from star witnesses Stormy Daniels and Michael Cohen to we never needed them in the first place. These crimes speak for themselves and their testimony was unnecessary. So whatever admissions they made, however bad they looked, ignore it, go convict Trump. And I think it's going to happen, but I would be very happy to be wrong in this prediction as well. But that being said, if you like what I do, you know what to do. Like, share, subscribe. Make sure your notifications are turned on so that you get notifications when I put up new content. If you want to find me on Twitter, the Viva Frei everywhere else, and vivabarneslaw.locals.com for the best above average community out there with my partner in crime, Robert Barnes. But more important than any of that, exercise, eat healthy, sunlight, talk to people in real life, and now you know your vlog. Peace out, peeps. Booyah!
We've been talking about this for many hours now. You're a fresh face, fresh voice. Give us your insights.
Yeah, so I thought Michael Cohen did very well on his direct examination, but as you have been commenting, he's far too defensive, it seems to me, on cross-examination. When you're caught in a lie, fess up, you're under oath. Yes, I lied. I did it for Donald Trump, whatever is the case. Because I think those are the kinds of things that can make him look less credible in the eyes of the jury. And although the prosecution did a very good job of laying the groundwork leading up to his testimony, to plant the seeds, to use corroboration in the form of emails and text messages, I think they really do need to believe Michael Cohen to be able to conclude that Donald Trump himself was personally involved here. And so, typically on cross-examination, there are two schools of thought. One is, I'm just going to make a couple key points. I'm going to get in, I'm going to get out, and I'm going to sit down. The other is, I am going to wear this witness down. I am going to expose him. I'm going to make him lose his cool. And it seems to be that latter strategy that Todd Blanche is following here. So we were going to see a couple of days of this. And I think the jury is going to see the true colors of Michael Cohen. And I think, he's someone who lies. He's lied consistently throughout his life. And so now is his opportunity to own up to that. And I think all of the hedging does not do him well or the government.